Join me as I dive into the question, is Dana White really the best sports owner? I'm going to find out what makes him stand out and see if he truly deserves that title. Dana White is a name that's synonymous with the UFC, and for good reason. As the president of the organization, he's been instrumental in turning it into the global powerhouse it is today. With a reputation for being fiercely passionate and uncompromising, White has built a brand that's recognized the world over, and his influence extends far beyond the world of mixed martial arts. Dana White has never been one to shy away from controversy, and his management style has often been criticized for being too aggressive, too harsh, or even too egotistical. Some have accused him of being heavy-handed in his dealings with fighters, while others have questioned his role in some of the UFC's more dubious business practices. And then, of course, there are the critics who say he's too focused on making a quick buck, rather than building a sustainable, long-term brand. One of the most persistent criticisms of Dana White is that he's too quick to dismiss the concerns of fighters, or to brush off legitimate complaints about fighter safety. It's an accusation that's gained traction in recent years, as the UFC has faced scrutiny over its handling of issues like concussion protocols and fighter pay. And while White has always maintained that he has the best interests of his fighters at heart, it's hard to ignore the feeling that, at the end of the day, the bottom line is what really matters. But despite all the criticism, Dana White has remained steadfast in his commitment to the UFC, and to his vision for the organization. He's a shrewd businessman, always looking for ways to stay ahead of the curve and keep the UFC relevant in an increasingly crowded sports landscape. And it's hard to argue with the results. Under his leadership, the UFC has grown from a niche organization to a global powerhouse, with a brand that's recognized the world over. Of course, one of Dana White's greatest achievements is the way he's managed to tap into the cultural zeitgeist, using innovative marketing strategies to turn the UFC into a must-see spectacle. From the early days of The Ultimate Fighter to the more recent success of events like UFC 229 and UFC 246, White has consistently found ways to create buzz and generate excitement around his brand. And it's not just about the fights themselves. The UFC's Instagram page is one of the most popular in sports, with millions of followers hanging on White's every word. But perhaps Dana White's most significant achievement is the way he's changed the landscape of mixed martial arts, turning what was once a fringe pursuit into a mainstream phenomenon. He's created a platform that allows fighters to become global superstars, and his influence has helped to drive interest in the sport to unprecedented heights. And it's not just about the UFC. White's vision has helped to shape the entire sport, inspiring a new generation of fighters and promoters to follow in his footsteps. One moment that really stands out in Dana White's career is the UFC's sale to WME-IMG in 2016. It was a deal that sent shockwaves through the sports world, and cemented White's status as one of the most astute and successful businessmen in the industry. And while the deal wasn't without its controversy, it's hard to deny the impact it had on the UFC, giving White the resources and backing he needed to take the organization to the next level. Another key moment was the signing of Conor McGregor in 2013. At the time, McGregor was a relatively unknown fighter, but White saw something in him that no one else did, a charisma and swagger that he knew would translate to the octagon. And boy, was he right. McGregor went on to become one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and his rivalry with Khabib Nurmagomedov generated some of the most intense and dramatic moments in the organization's history. The sale of the UFC to WME-IMG also had significant implications for White's role in the organization, giving him the freedom to focus on what he does best, promoting fights and building the brand. And it's hard to deny the results. Under White's leadership, the UFC has continued to thrive, with events like UFC 229 and UFC 246 breaking records and generating millions of dollars in revenue. So, after examining the evidence, it's clear that Dana White has a strong case for being the best sports owner. He's a visionary, a shrewd businessman, and a master promoter, and his influence has helped to shape the sport of mixed martial arts in ways that will be felt for years to come. So, what do you think, guys? Do you think Dana White is the best sports owner out there? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to check out my other videos for more insights into sports management.